right, everyone. Welcome back to another production meeting. Everyone's here this week. Yay!
Ryan
Yay!
didn't
Ryan's
die.
not.
No
Ryan's not
Benadryl for
missing.
me tonight.
All right. So, what did everybody do this week?
Well, I'm just so glad we could all get together on this monumentous day where the world has been perfect and calm and quiet and nothing crazy's gone on. We're just together, talking about movies and things like that.
The important stuff.
The important stuff.
That's right.
I had a pretty slow week. I didn't watch too much, other than our homework per se. I watched a few foreign things. I watched the new series that started on HBO, or at least I'm not sure if it's starting concurrent with HBO Europe, but it's called 30 Coins. It's kind of like a supernatural horror series, and the first 2 episodes are out, and they're both actually the first episode's an hour and a half, and then the next one's an hour. But it's pretty good. I would check it out just for the intro alone, which is kind of cheap, but also very raw and very disturbing. So I would watch it just for that. I also watched the first episode finally of Raised by Wolves, also on HBO, which was actually very surprising. It took a turn where I did not see coming, and so I'm very intrigued by that now. So I can't wait to watch the rest of that. So those 2 series, it's weird for me to keep up, but I'll definitely keep up with for a few more episodes.
Cool.
I watched the new horror, not new, but a couple of horror movies, also foreign. Not to be confused with the Curse of La Llorona, but the movie La Llorona, which is about La Llorona, but it's more of a political drama with supernatural bits tied into it. What's up, Ryan?
Is it good?
Subvert your expectations. I read a lot of lists that were like, this movie's awesome, this movie's great, and I just think the payoffs at the end did not raise it up to that level. I thought it was a good story. I think that part's interesting, but as far as like a horror movie or a supernatural movie, I don't think it's that effective. I mean, the parts of it are kind of, but they're a very small part of the film, I think, as opposed to the political side of it. And then I was also, I'm going to butcher the name of this horror movie too. Impetigore, which is an Indonesian horror film. It's on Shudder, on Amazon. It's actually pretty good. I was actually very impressed with that. Not like top 10 impressed, but super entertained, impressed. It's about a girl who gets attacked by this guy, and she tells him something about her family, and she goes to this remote village to figure out why her family is important, and all these crazy things happen to her. And it's there's a couple really disturbing parts in it, and it's super entertaining if you like horror stuff. But that's what I watched this week. And video games, same deal. Rocket League, Overwatch. That's what I've been doing.
Yay! Who's next?
What did I do? I did the homework plus my classic this week. I dove into a couple of video games. I started playing that Kingdom Hearts rhythm game. That's okay. It's very repetitive. It's some songs are kind of cool to, do a little Guitar Hero into, except, you're just button mashing. That's okay. And then I started a couple of indie games. One's called Spirit of the North. A lot of people reviewed that not in the best way, and I was like, nah, you're just crazy. And it's okay so far. I think I got it for like $8, and if it continues the way it is, I think $8 is pretty fair. And then I started the Sackboy Adventure for PS5. Only played about a half hour of that, so I've just dipped my toe in a lot of games this week, but nothing substantial. And that's all I've done.
Cool.
I was on vacation, so I did not get a chance to watch a whole lot of new stuff. I rewatched one movie and bumped it up on my list significantly, but I'll get to that. And then this was kind of 2 weeks ago, but I did watch Wonder Woman and Soul, and I did not get a chance to hear you guys talk about them. So I don't want to.
No, you go into it, man.
Do it, man.
We talked about it last week, so if you want us to go into it, I hated it. Clint liked it, and Alex
Alex
thought it
was
very
okay
subpar.
with Alex was okay with it, and then heard Matt make very, very, very good arguments and
We're talking
rated it
about Wonder
as
Woman, not
a
Soul,
okay,
by the way.
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
No. That's correct. And I said 5.9 as to not give it a fresh score.
It's kind of dumb.
Oh, it's pretty dumb when you think about it.
Yeah, there were a lot of things I liked in it, and I really wanted those things to prop up the movie, and they didn't. You know, Hans Zimmer score, wonderful 80s throwback. Pedro Pascal had way too much screen time, but great performance, and those things do not hold up the movie. So I didn't hate it. I think I ended up giving it a 6 when I was reviewing it. I still really haven't decided how much I didn't like it, but it's probably a 5. And I thought Soul 4. Yeah, that sounds all right. I mean, I've seen so many. The bar is so low this year that I was like, oh, this is at least it's not a couple other movies.
Right.
Yeah, and I thought Soul was pretty good.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, yeah, Alex. I mean, I gave it an 8 because I was like, I definitely enjoyed it enough to give it an 8. I didn't cry, and most Pixar films don't get to say they didn't make me cry. So I think it's probably took too high an aim for. I mean, not saying Pixar has to have an age demographic. It kind of hurts where it's like it's definitely more for the heart of the movie is more for adults than for kids. That's great because it hits us. But I also have to think about the fact that this is a fun Pixar movie on Disney Plus that doesn't hit that audience.
Yeah.
Correct. I think that's subconsciously where my rating came. I gave it a 6, which I guess, this is not a bad movie by any regard, but if this is kind of if this is Disney's floor, then that's actually okay. That's not bad. But with that in mind, I'm trying to think, will a child stay attentive to this? Me personally, no, I didn't think that. But for us, it's a little bit better. But it's not great. But I would watch it again.
Yeah.
6 is fine with me.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all I watched of anything significant. All the recent stuff.
Did you get to Promising Young Woman?
Oh yeah, I saw that in theaters. That's why I was late 2 weeks ago. And I have thought about few other movies as positively as that one this year.
Which is it's going to be on premium video on demand next week. So.
Oh, awesome! Do I get to hear you guys talk about it next week?
I'm not paying $20 to watch this thing.
Yeah, comes out on the 15th. So.
I know. Yeah, not to get too spoiler into my top 10, or top 5 later on, but that won't be on there just because I didn't see it. Want to, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Put it on there anyway. I'm just kidding. I did try to rewatch in anticipation for this because I didn't really care about my written list, and people can think whatever they want. In preparation for this, I tried to watch as many of the films that I liked this year twice. So I ended up rewatching like Palm Springs and The Gentleman and a couple others just to kind of gauge how much I actually like those. So. That's
cool.
The other things I watched this week, which is movies I've already seen.
Cool. Well, while you guys were doing that, I had a birthday, so
happy birthday!
Thank
Belated
you.
Birthday.
So I played some more Valhalla, which I'm liking because it's introducing a lot of other things that were in previous games, like a lot of like different tactics and things like that. And to your question, Alex, like I think you asked it last week, where God of War is more mythological with the creatures and things like that, this is more like historical. So I can see the difference in the games where I liked God of War a whole lot more than I do Valhalla. But I do like this one for its like historical context.
Yeah, I would that's the feel I get from that, and it's not bad. It's just its strengths are in different categories than God of War, which is fine.
And I'm also catching up on Westworld. I just finished season 2 and I'm going into season 3 right now. So I really like that show. It's a little weird, but I do like that show. Other than that, that was it. Oh, and I started actually reading the new Star Wars High Republic books, Light of the Jedi. I gotten like a few chapters in. It's actually pretty good. So interested to see where they take the High Republic. All right. So there is no news this week. It was bare bones in the entertainment world, at least.
Everyone was on holiday celebrating Christmas and New Year. They didn't have time to give us any news.
Yeah. And Pedro Pascal and Oscar Isaac were getting drunk somewhere. That's okay. So this week we're going to do our top 5. I thought it was a top 5, but I feel like a few of you have more than 5.
No,
So-
I've got like a top 3 and then a bunch of random crap personally.
That's how I felt. Now I feel like kind of like underdressed for this because I broke mine down to like top 5, and I was like, the rest are honorable mentions. Literally
Yeah,
everything else.
just ignore Ryan and I. We're like Dumb and Dumber, you know, the tuxedos. That's
Alex, you and I can get like maybe half a sentence each on our honorable mentions.
Right. So
that's right.
let's do our top 5, and then we'll come back to your honorable mentions. So we're all going to start at 5.
Okay.
So who wants to go first?
I think Ryan should.
Okay,
Do
I'm
it,
ready.
Ryan.
Yeah, why not? Why not? So I had like putting together this list. I think every film on my list at one point was number 5, and I just kind of rotated out. So with a grain of salt, I thought The Gentleman was one of my favorite films of the year by the end of the year. I watched it twice, and it was so much better on a second viewing. Probably because I didn't have a snoring lady next to me for 2 hours, which really kills the viewing experience. But that film is just Guy Ritchie back at his best. Great performances from Hugh Grant and Charlie Hunnam. Really fun energy in that perfect, hard to describe if it's a comedy or a drama or a crime film or a thriller. And just fun narrative storytelling all the way through. The playing with the pacing makes it constantly entertaining, and it lingers just a little bit too long. It kind of finishes, and then it's like, oh, we need something kind of bigger. Kind of comes out of nowhere. It's okay. It doesn't really hurt the movie that much. I thought it was a ton of fun, and it's just got that sharp Guy Ritchie dialogue all the way throughout. It's definitely the film I think I enjoyed more on a second viewing over one of the others on my honorable mentions I'll talk about later. But I watched it on a second viewing. I liked it a lot more, but just not quite as much as this one.
Cool.
I'll go next. My 5, it's a pretty recent one that we did on Prime, Sound of Metal. I remember us being kind of in awe of this, mainly because of that audio mixing and the use of, I don't know, how would you describe it, that personifying his hearing going in and out, you know, go like giving you a glimpse of what it feels like to be in that kind of world, but not, you know, submerging you in completely into it. Just from that standalone, I thought this movie was awesome. Like it really does an effective job that way. And honestly, the story was really, really interesting all the way throughout. And I didn't like the ending as much before we'd mentioned it, or before we had talked about it. And then I started realizing the more artistic nature behind it. And so once I thought about it, I was like, okay, I even like that too. Some parts are a little off. Like it's not a totally perfect movie, but I liked it nonetheless. A lot of good performances all around. Yeah, solid 5.
All right, well,
solid number 5.
I have a feeling we might see that title somewhere later. But that said, I would like to preface my top 5 by saying there is a whole list of films from 2020 that I have yet to see that I could believe could break into my top 5 films. Like, and I know Ryan has seen a couple of these, and you guys probably, the ones like the Small Axe series on Prime, which I just haven't got to. I've watched one of those. I really enjoyed the one that I watched. Ryan shook his head. I guess he's watched them. He probably doesn't want to see it.
5. I don't have time to watch 5 of them.
They're only an hour, except for the first one, which is 2 hours. So
Movies
there's
aren't an hour.
Nomadland, which is the front runner to be Best Picture this year, I think, right now, which none of
Right.
us has seen because it's been really, hasn't been released anywhere except LA and New York.
Right.
I haven't watched. I'm going through this. I'm just want to go through these titles just to verify that I haven't seen them, and it's not the reason I left them off my list.
Right.
The Five Bloods, haven't watched it. Sorry. First Cow, haven't watched it. Apologize. It's on Showtime, I think. I probably need to get around to watching that. Possessor, which I know none of you guys probably have seen, maybe Ryan.
Heard about
It's
it.
been like the top threes on like a lot of horror lists. I haven't watched it yet. The Assistant, The Father, Beanpole, Freaky, Never Rarely, Sometimes Always, News of the World, Judas and the Black Messiah, One Night in Miami, Nari, Pretty Young Woman, and Dark and Wicked. That said, I've listed all those movies. I don't think I left anything off that I haven't watched that should be of any importance. I could be, but I'm not sure. That said, my top five, I really only had top three that I really wanted to rate. So my four and my five, I wanted to give it to A. My number five is my favorite horror movie this year, which will probably be in my top 20, maybe top 10 of this year. It was typically between Invisible Man and His House, and I gave it to His House mainly because I was very impressed with the atmosphere of the movie and the situation that the plot put its characters in. I thought it was very entertaining. I thought the scares in it were really good. I think it's good for everybody. I don't think anybody would be super bored with it. It's not one of those, like, I would almost say polarizing films like Hereditary, where some people are just dragged down and bored with it. I think this is a little more kind of in that middle. It's a really good story, and I recommend it. So number five, His House. And I'm done ranting right now.
Cool. I think we should all preface by saying that we didn't watch most of these either. So, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
I actually bought because it's got a January 15th release date from 2020. Just Mercy, even though it competed at last Oscars, and I bought it. Haven't watched it.
It's a decent flick. I'd say that for me. I think I said a 7. Michael B. Jordan's fine. The performances are fine. Yeah.
cool. All right. So I split my five because I couldn't decide which one to put in here. So I said, this is my list. So you guys can, whatever. The half of it and Sound of Metal. I did like Sound of Metal with all of the points that you said, Alex. I really did like the ending, and I liked the character's journey. And I have to say that for the same for the half of it. After I actually rewatched it a couple weeks ago, and I liked that it was kind of different. It was a different kind of romantic comedy type drama, and it plays with boundaries and like it's the whole Roxanne type thing. And I did like the actors. The actors were pretty good in it for what the movie was, and I think that the production and everything was really kind of spot on. So, yeah, that's my number 5.
I do think that movie does get points for unpredictability because, like, I didn't see that unfolding the way it did. It was okay for me. I remember thinking, like, not the best of it, but some people might like it more than I did, and clearly you did. So that's not a terrible number 5.
Yeah. So I'm gonna jump off number 4. Number 4 for me was Trial of the Chicago 7. I thought that was a really good movie, and I think that it was very engaging throughout. The whole ensemble cast did a very good job. I'd be highly surprised if some of them don't get Oscar nods for this. At least Sacha Baron Cohen, whatever. Horrible with names. And direction and stuff by Aaron Sorkin was done really well. So that's my number 4.
And it's Eddie Redmayne's birthday today, so he should get an Oscar nomination because of that.
Biggest fanboy, Eddie Redmayne fanboy, right there, Alex. Alex always.
Oh no, I just happened to. Fantastic Beasts. Oh yeah, and I did just watch recently. What did I watch, Clint? What was that with him? My Weekend with Marilyn.
Oh yeah.
My Week with Marilyn.
Yeah.
So that was pretty
Are
good.
we are we snake drafting
yeah,
this? Or are you want me to go to 4 now since you went 5?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay.
snake
All right.
draft.
All right. So number 4, like I said, only a top 3 that I really wanted to consider. So I wanted to give this to my favorite animated film of this year, and this was a huge toss up for me. And it tears me apart. Try to think of this, and I'm actually I think going to come down to it right now. It was definitely between, and there weren't that many animated films that came out this year, but it was definitely between Soul and Wolfwalkers. And I finally watched that. Actually, I did watch that this week, at the beginning of the week. I completely forgot that's when I watched it. And gosh, I don't even know. I kind of want to flip a coin right now because there's things that you know what? I'm gonna have to give it to Soul. I think I like Soul better. Wolfwalkers is great. It's got a great story and it's visually interesting as far as how it's animated. But there's a few things there's a couple things at the end that I wasn't a huge fan of. And Sean Bean's voiceover work, I was also not a huge fan of because I don't think he's a good dramatic actor. I think he's a good actor, but once he has to get dramatic, I think it just sounds forced and weird. So that's just me. Like, I'll be the guy who's like, when Boromir's trying to get all sad and stuff, I'll be like, what are you doing, man? It sounds a little cringy right now. I love the movies, but Sean Bean doing that is a little weird to me. But Soul, I loved.
Give me the ring.
I like it. I love the animation. I love the style of it. I love the chances that they took. The only gripe I would have with it is just the ending, where I think they could have gone a little darker and it'd been fine. But I liked everything except for that one little thing. I liked it a lot. That was my favorite animated film this year, but just by a hair. That song choice for Wolfwalkers was great. And a fun fact, the lady who sings that song is also the voice of the voice in Frozen. Done.
Man,
Of
Of what voice?
So was your number 4 Wolfwalkers?
No, that was Soul was number 4.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so my number 4 is Tom Hanks's Greyhound. I thought that movie. Now you could nitpick about it, where it's all like one gigantic battle, or like very quick transitions into one battle from the next. But Tom Hanks's performance in that was astounding. I would not have been able to tell. Like, he was playing a captain very well in this. Like, he was giving orders that looked very organic and very real. It blows me away how, obviously it's a movie, but how real it felt, like all those moments that he portrayed in there were. And even though it's not a huge setting, obviously it takes place on the boat the entire way, almost, except for like the very beginning. It does effective with what it has, and I think that is a good film to, like, if you were thinking of getting a Apple TV Plus, for any specific reason, that would be a good reason too. So I think that's a good, solid number 4 for me.
Cool.
Alex, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I bumped Greyhound off my list for Gentlemen, so I'm glad it got talked about.
I got you, man.
So my number 4, I this year I just decided that I didn't really care about whether or not something deserved to be on my list or not. It was the only 7 out of 10 to make my list. I don't think it was amazing, but I did watch it twice in a week, and it was Bill and Ted Face the Music. I got such a kick out of this movie, and I know a couple film snobs that I know, like, really didn't like it. I don't know. I thought there was something about it that just recaptured that tone, that perfect tone from the first movie, but it was so perfectly washed up. And between the performances and the fun energy in the movie and the great dynamic between Bill and Ted and the daughters and the subtle, playful redrawing elements from the first 2 movies, I thought it was just a completely fun experience to a very satisfying finale by the end. So it's got a lot of problems, but I just enjoyed that so much more than most of the movies I watched this year.
Cool.
That was another one I totally forgot about putting on my list, or one that I just never got around to seeing.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. I mean, I don't know if it was list worthy for me personally, but it was definitely a fun movie. I don't really have that many gripes about it. I mean, some of the plot is like what, but I definitely agree with like the energy is there. Like those people bring the same performances and look like they're having fun, and nothing really annoyed me with the movie at all. I thought it was fun. So
Yeah, this
Watch
would
it.
be one of those things where I think if it weren't 2020, I might take this list really seriously, push it way down to. But I'm like, whatever. So.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
so going to number
Oh, wait, no,
three,
Well,
Ryan.
yeah, Ryan.
no,
Yeah,
no,
Ryan,
no,
go
gotta
to
go
your
back.
number
Ryan,
three.
I know.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
I was getting to that.
All right, so my number 3, I swapped this position a couple times, but I saw Promising Young Woman 2 weeks ago. Haven't stopped thinking about it since. And I'll probably end up be bumping this up to a 9 out of 10 by the second time I watch it. It's just a fantastic thriller. It's funny, it's dramatic, it's intense, it's got incredible performances all the way throughout. I don't want to give too much away, but the way that film plays with its clever writing, character development, tone, pacing for the audience, it's the perfect splash of cold water on the 2000s film, and it doesn't do it without making you feel like you're watching something so overly burdened with themes. It doesn't hurt the movie at all, and that's one thing I was worried going into it, because I mean it essentially is kind of a feminist piece, and I think it's wonderful. I think it's absolutely wonderful, and it's got one of the best third acts I've seen in a thriller.
Cool.
Now, I have 2 questions about that. Is it one, who is the director? Because I actually don't
Not a
know.
clue. Did some television work. I have it. World Fennell. She did some work on The Crown, and a lot of acting work instead of directing work. So I don't think I've seen anything that she's actually directed, because I think her work has been in seasons 3 and 4. Yeah.
Now, my other question is, I've been asking this a lot lately. Is it one of those things where the less you know about it, the better it is? Or is it just, you watch a trailer and then you go into it thinking, okay.
Either way, the trailer does not give anything away about the movie.
Okay.
The expectations set in the movie come about 10 minutes in. It's got some weird stylistic choices early on. They're kind of to set the mood, and those kind of go away. It was one of the only complaints I had about that film, is that the first 5 minutes you get a lot of heavy style choices, and that doesn't really carry on through much of the rest of the movie. That's fine. I think it's a great way to set up the film. It's just something that you kind of cater your expectations to, where I'm like, when you see the title of a movie come up and it's just weird, like Avatar, when it ends, it's just like, oh, it's green. This whole movie's been blue, and the title of Avatar is green. It's just kind of weird like that. But I think it sets the stage really well. And if you watch the trailer, I think it also sets the stage really well. It gets this.
Is that an adapted screenplay or is it original?
I hope it's original. Let me look that up too. This is research.
Well, it's funny you say that, Ryan,
You guys are
because I thought the
killing me.
same
Yeah, it's
thing
original.
with the whole title. What did you call it? The title, like the color. What was it?
I don't remember what I just called it.
Well, whatever.
Well, usually they call it the title card.
Yeah, okay. Random, and this is actually, you know what? I'm gonna write this later on. This is not going in my top 5. It's my honorable mention for later. But Extraction with Chris Hemsworth. I thought that was a pretty good flick. But you made me think, Ryan. Like right when, I don't know, after the first 2 minutes of the movie, it shows the title, and like that's supposed to be gritty and actiony. You think it'd be like either red or like a dark gray or something, but no, it's like this like Hulu colored green. Extraction. I'm like, okay, that's weird, but okay. Yeah. Okay, so now my number 3. Ryan mentioned this earlier. My number 3 is The Gentleman. I thought that a lot of now see, I've only seen it the one time, and that's how good this movie was. All the performances, Charlie Hannon, excuse me, Hannon and Matthew McConaughey, Hugh Grant, all of them are like, they're unique and they're all like got their own style, and it blends together in that like you think this pacing would be really weird, but it's actually kind of fits in that Guy Ritchie style. And it's an interesting story, and it's not totally like, it wasn't those that I had expectations and then it fell flat. It was just really good all the way through. In fact, I had to own this movie, and I'm pretty sure I got it for Black Friday for like $7 on 4K. So easily a one I needed to pick up. So that is my number 3 from this year. Really was actually running at my number 1 for most of the year, because and this isn't knock against the movie by any means, but there were just nothing that could compare to it up until recently for me. So, but yeah, that is my number 3.
All right, we're getting into my top 3 now. These are films that I actually think are really some of the best ones this year. Like literally the top 1%, or maybe even 2%, because there weren't that many films that came out this year. My number 3, already been mentioned, Trial of the Chicago 7. I really, and you're going to notice a trend in all my top 3 is that they're all pretty much performance focused. As far as direction goes, I kind of think this year was a little let down. I think I haven't seen anything that kind of stood out to me as far as directorial wise, but performance wise, there were a lot of standouts for me. And I think Chicago 7 had an amazing ensemble cast. I think the performances were all top notch all the way around. I mentioned in my review, like, months ago, that I think Frank Legala should get a supporting actor nod. They'll probably push for Sacha Baron Cohen, whatever. They probably won't win anyway, but I think it's a great film. Aaron Sorkin. Is it Aaron Sorkin's best work? But it fills that void, and it was good. It was entertaining. I was pleasantly surprised by it. So my number 3, Trial of Chicago 7.
Cool. So I mentioned this off air, but I cheated this year because I didn't think there was enough good movies to put on this list, and to feel good about, or that I've watched anyway. So my number 3 is actually the second season of The Mandalorian.
Oh, dang it.
Well,
I'm putting that in my honorable mentions, but there you go.
I thought the season as a whole was great. It had some bumps in the road, as we all have talked about over Mando time. But as a whole, I think that this season did a really good job of starting to branch out into different aspects of the Star Wars galaxy and the Star Wars universe. The direction by each one of these directors was done pretty well, and the stories were done pretty. I mean, the scripts and everything were done really well. I know that you guys had your reservations about it, but the last couple minutes of this season were probably pretty cool. I thought that they were awesome. And it just goes to show you never to meet a Skywalker in a hallway. So, but yeah, I think the second season of The Mandalorian was done pretty well. So that being said, though, my number 2 is also a TV series, and it was The Boys. The Boys just kind of like edged out The Mandalorian just a little bit. And I feel like Matt saying this is just like these two were just like, we're neck and neck. And I gave it to The Boys because I think that it pushed the envelope a little bit more. And it was just, the acting, and Homelander is probably the best villain on TV. And I think that's why it edged out The Mandalorian, is because Grand Moff Gideon was a good villain until that final episode, and it was just like, spoilers for The Mandalorian, but why are you trying to off yourself now, dude? Like, this is kind of, but I think Homelander was the best villain on TV this year. And just the acting, the story, where it went, it was done really well. So that's my
Oh yeah,
2.
I would say that is a very, very good choice. Why are you mentioning things I'm totally forgetting, Clint? I think it's because in the back part of my brain I was like not putting
It's because he's cheating, Alex. He told you. You were
I
supposed to
cheated.
cheat.
He did
That's
cheat.
why you didn't. That's why you didn't think of these.
You gotta keep a list.
Yeah. my we're on number 2, right?
Yes.
My
Yep.
number 2, also performance based. Sound of Metal, man. I love this movie. I think it's great performances all around, supporting and lead. That sound editing, which Alex said before, it's almost a 9 for me. I don't know if I have a 9 this year, but it's definitely close. Now that I've thought about it more and I've actually watched it again, I really enjoy it. I think it's a really good story. I think it's really well done, and I think the performances are amazing. And I would recommend it to anybody. And if you don't like it, I don't like you. I'm just kidding. You're a good person.
That's when I
That's
go back
fired.
and go, well, Matt, that one moved from my 5 to my 6. Well, Alex, it's been nice knowing you. Get out. Yeah. All right. So my number 2, and I felt funny at first putting this on. I know I'm going to be the only one who mentions this. But
Don't say Mulan.
Dang it! Now I have to remove it from both 1 and 2. No. Let me rant on that. No, absolutely not. That deserves nowhere near even my. That's on my dishonorable mentions. Ryan, you can back me up.
It's a number 3 on one of my lists this year.
As one of the most disappointing things ever.
Can we just talk about how Disney has had some of the most entertaining films, but also some of the worst films this year?
Well, they own everything.
Oh my God, please don't say it.
You're gonna make some. You're gonna shoot your shots, and you're gonna miss some.
Yeah, but they swing and they miss hard.
Yeah,
hard.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they're swinging for the fences, and they let go of that bat, and it's hitting the bat boy.
Look, you can swing for the fences, and then you can put Dame Judi Dench in a movie. She's an elf, okay? Like that's, or a leprechaun, or whatever the hell she is.
Better than a cat.
That's the pitcher plunking you in the head and then intentionally running at you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but anyway, back to my number 2. This is one that I actually saw in theaters, and you guys, I know nobody's going to mention this, but I enjoyed
Sonic?
this, and this is no, it's in my honorable mentions because I didn't watch as many as you guys. No, the My Hero Academia Heroes Rising movie. I thought that was an excellent story, and that's one that I'm so glad I got to see in the theater, because the fighting and animation style of the fighting and all the colorfulness and the fluidity of the battles is just so well done. Funimation does it again with these, high profile movies. Like 2019's top movie for me was Dragon Ball Z. I know I'm a big Dragon Ball fan. I'm a little skewed that way. In fact, I'm wearing my Broly pants right now. Like, I'll show you guys later. And
At least you're wearing pants.
At least I'm wearing pants this time. That movie I gave a 9. This is one where even the story, like, even though it's not the best all the way throughout, I am not opposed to if the movie has been, kind of slow all the way throughout, but has a grand finale, then I am fine with giving it a good score because of that last part. I mean, heck, Rogue One was really slow all the way throughout until that last half hour, and it's probably the best Star Wars movie recently released, with the latest trilogy and all. So that's my number 2. I give that a 9 out of 10. Any anime head should watch that.
Cool.
Oh, my number 2, going back to one we've already heard brought up, is Trial of the Chicago 7. I had no problems with this movie. Definitely one of the best. It's probably the best screenplay of the year for me. I haven't seen all of the Oscar films that aren't out yet, but Aaron Sorkin's dialogue, writing, and energy is so good. And I didn't always thought. I mean, when his direction's not always been the best when he's the one physically directing it, but this just really worked. And the performances are fantastic. I mean, I could go on for a while about it, but it's definitely definitely one of the best made movies this year, and a surprisingly positive movie with such a negative story for
Yeah.
such a negative year.
Cool.
Oh yeah, it's me again, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it
Drum
is.
roll.
I can't
number
get the hang of
one.
this.
Number one.
Okay, so
Da-da-da-da.
I knew this was going to be my number one. I think when I saw it, I probably wouldn't have guessed that until COVID, but I knew it was going to be up there. I was hoping to save this spot for Dune, but that didn't happen. But I saw this back in February, and it just kind of stuck with me. And I am kind of just a sucker for Universal sometimes, but I thought The Invisible Man was
Wow.
by far my favorite movie.
Dang it! How did I not guess that?
Um,
known
I love the original Invisible Man. It's my favorite classic of the Universal 7 original monster movies. And so I went into this really skeptical. I think it's the expectations that definitely set it, because I was like, oh, great, we get a Blumhouse remake of Invisible Man with somebody I don't know because I never watched any of her shows, and it didn't look good. But I could not believe you got one of the best performances of the year. Really fantastic integration of themes dealing with domestic abuse while not distracting from the fact that it's a horror film. I adore the slow, subtle, camera moves that don't
Oh,
have motive. There's just something so terrifying. The jump scares are great, but you still sit there for that whole movie just on the edge of your seat because the cameraman is making you nervous, because you get that wonderful feeling that there's somebody in the room at all times, even before you know he's there. I thought it excelled as a social commentary. It excelled as a horror film. It excelled as a remake. It excelled as a monster film. I cannot wait for more from Universal from films like this.
Right.
that's a solid choice. I know that's in my honorable mentions. I don't know if I enjoyed it quite as much as you, but yes, that is a solid horror flick. Okay, but on to my number one. This actually was mentioned previously, and I know that I'm going to be the only one who has this even near the number one spot, but my number one for the year is Wolfwalkers. I thought that movie was absolutely amazing. Now, maybe it was because I didn't have the highest expectations for it. Like, I knew going in it was going to be a kiddie movie, and I was like, maybe I'll enjoy it some of the way. No, I mean, I just was blown away by how good this movie was on a lot of fronts. The story was interesting all the way through. I didn't find it dull at any point. The music is absolutely to die for. The animation is easily the best thing. It's like a watercolor hand drawn thing, but it's vivid and it's like just enjoyable all the way throughout. And now Sean Bean is the biggest name in there, and I will say I don't quite agree with Matt. Like, he doesn't. I don't think it's a bad performance, but I think it's actually an underused performance. Like, I think with such a big name, I think the story kind of went the way it did and made him not an afterthought, but just kind of pushed him to the side a little bit, which I guess maybe is a little bit for the better, since it wasn't the best performance, but I found it effective enough. And I just, the only thing I could maybe nitpick about this movie, and it goes along with the whole idea with Soul that I had before, where I'm thinking, will a child stay connected to this long enough to get through it? And like, as far as visually, yes, like, it's good, it's gripping. I could see a child sitting and just watching, even if they don't understand what's going on. But the length of it maybe is asking a little bit too much from somewhere around a 10-year-old child watching this. I mean, I forget exactly how long it is. I think it's just shy of 2 hours, so that it might be a little bit long. But like, for me personally, I didn't find it boring at all, and I thought it was just a fabulous movie altogether. Easily similar to Greyhound. If this is a movie that you were thinking about getting Apple TV Plus 4, then go for it, because this was an absolutely great movie. I mean, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I couldn't recommend this movie enough.
I would like to piggyback on what you said about the animation. I think kids. I think if I put myself in the shoes of like a child, if I was like 10 or something, I think this movie would hold my attention. I think this was good. The animation itself, I think, holds to what they show on like Cartoon Network these days. But the way they did it and the amount of depth of field that they got in these animated shots using this 2D art was amazing. I thought. And to clarify with my Sean Bean thing, I thought he was okay. It was just there's a point at the third act where he gets like super emotional that it just took me out because I was like, ugh,
Yeah.
what is that? And then they do the trope at the end where I don't want to say, well, I guess I could say the villain just kind of falls off a cliff. And I'm like, really? You put me through this magical story and then we're doing the whole cliff thing where they just go off the cliff? Thanks. Yeah. So I was like, I was a little put off by that. But yeah, that's about it. But I enjoy it too. I'd recommend it too. Like I said, neck and neck with Soul for me personally. But that said, my number one film, and I'm not sure if this had come out any other year, like with these same movies, if I'd put it, if things wouldn't be right, but I think the stars aligned for this and the way I watched it. And I don't think I've gotten an emotional response from a movie, as big of emotional response from a movie as I have when I watch this. But my number one film for this year so far, as opposed because I haven't seen any of those films from 2020 that I haven't watched, is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Those performances, and I mentioned that when I started at 3, all these were performance based pretty much. Viola Davis, oh my God. I'm not the hugest fan of hers because she hams it up sometimes and some of the choices I'm whatever, but this was perfect. I've never felt, very rarely do I feel like such an emotional like conflict with a character. Chadwick Boseman, oh my God. And I think that's what it is. Like if this movie had come out, in situation have been different, I don't know if it would have affected me as much. But being as things as they are, this movie, man, just it pulls on your heart, man. Just the performance he gives, and it's just tough. And I think the way it's shot looks good. Everyone pulls their weight in it. The sound is good. All the scenes are great. Is it for everybody? I mean, it's tough to watch, man. It's I mean, it's an August Wilson film, but I as far as emotional reaction and what negative things I have to say about it, and I pick apart everything. I really don't have that much negative or really anything negative to say about that, and that's why like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is my number one film this year.
You had me worried. I thought you were going to say Borat.
We haven't got to our honorable mentions yet.
No, The Rock was not in a movie this year. So, okay. So my number one, I really can't talk about because it's going to be our review. It's Love and Monsters. Yeah. It's just one of those. I watched this and I was like enthralled in this movie, and I will talk about it later.
All right. Well, you have any honorable mentions then?
Extraction, probably honorable mention. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is probably like that was tough to not put on this list, but I think it would probably be my number 6. Is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Definitely in top 10. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. But I think like Extraction was a pretty good like action film for this year.
As far as me, like movies that I want to give honorable mentions to, and these are movies I don't know if they'd be in my top 10, but they're films not necessarily be in my top 10, but films that I thought were way better than they had any right to be personally. And the one I would like to piggyback on to Clinton, which we're going to talk about later, is Love and Monsters. Also Run, which we talked about a few episodes ago. What Ryan just brought up Borat. Are you kidding me? You tell me Borat comes out and this movie's not going to be trash, and then it ends up being decently okay for what it is. So, and the performances in it were great. Emma, which if I don't put a Taylor-Joy movie in here, I'm gonna punch myself. Host, which I've told you guys about, Shudder, probably in the top 5 as horror movies. Definitely didn't have any reason to be as good as it was, but I mean it's solid for less than an hour that it is. Underwater, which is probably one of the most fun movies that I've watched this year as far as like tension goes. And I would recommend that too. And then as far as emotional responses, I enjoyed, but I don't think it had that there were things that could have been done to improve it, but I think it was really good, especially with the cast. We talked about it months and months ago. Devil all the time, and that's all I got.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Well, you rang my reminded me of Emma. Yeah, I don't know that it was a good Anya Taylor-Joy movie, and I probably would say that would be why not? Let's just throw it in an honorable mention. In no particular order. You mentioned Run. That I also agree. Like that had no business being as good as it was, and I wouldn't say a thing about it because that's easily. When I asked Ryan earlier, is it a movie? Is Promising Young Woman one of those movies where the least you know about it, the better? Because Run is exactly that. Like the absolute least you know about this movie, the way better. Like that was a solid 8 for me, and it felt like it shouldn't have been that, but it was. I did put Trial of the Chicago 7 in my honorable mentions. I enjoyed that. A lot of good performances in that. Invisible Man, like Ryan. I enjoyed it, but I just don't. I didn't think it was absolutely like, clamoring for more kind of deal for me personally. But I enjoyed it, and like if there was like a sequel to it or something similar to it, I'd go see it. Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, I was gonna say, I gotta say too, like, Clint, you were talking about how much you like New Mutants for, like, because you read the comics,
Yeah.
so it kind of catered to that. Invisible Man's full of those little like references where it's like, oh, you got a guy covered in bandages that looks like the original, or you got the jacket and the hat that looks like the original. So that kind of just catered to me a little bit too.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right, and I could see that. Like, I can't think of anything specifically for me, but I'm sure that there are those types of movies that, I'm a little bit more charmed by, given by my interests. But I only have a couple more honorable mentions. I know somebody in here will agree with me, and then somebody won't. I thought that the one and only Ivan on Disney Plus, I actually really enjoyed that. I think that had no business being good, but I actually like Sam Rockwell's performance in that. Like, it's a decent enough story. I think I got out of this movie what a lot of other people got out of Soul. Like, I just thought it was cute, it was charming, and it's a little cliche ridden, here and there, cutesy, whatever. But I enjoyed it all the way throughout. And then Bryan Cranston, like, is kind of the bad guy, but he's not the bad guy. Sort of. Like, I get that's a little weird, but at the end of the day, it's an enjoyable little flick. And I would watch it again. I mentioned Sonic. I'm a huge Sonic fan. It was not great by any means, but I appreciate the time that went into it, and Sega and Paramount going back in and being like, okay, Sonic looks terrible to begin with, so let's redo him. And he's cute and he's fun. It's fun to watch. I knew I was gonna get the movie just because I'm a huge Sonic fan. Is it great? No, but it's a fun little time. Extraction. That was a better movie to start off. I remember that was like one of the first movies we ever did on this. It might have been the very first one we ever. No, that was not.
Parasite.
We did Parasite. You're right. But that doesn't count because that was last year. Yeah, that was 2019. And then the Mando season 2. I'm like Clint. I actually enjoyed the finale more than the rest of these guys. I mean, it was fine. I wasn't blown away because I'm not nearly as big a Star Wars fan as you, but I enjoyed the whole season. It started off like really high for me and then just kind of coasted all the way throughout, which is fine. Totally fine. I think we got an average score of like 7 3/4 from me. So not too bad. The Boys season 2, I also really liked, just as high energy and like craziness as the first season. So that was really good. And then Emma, I actually did not find too bad. So those are my honorable mentions.
I just thought of a joke.
Uh-oh.
What happens when you combine the movies The One and Only Ivan with Soul?
The one Soul Ivan you. I don't know.
You get The One and Only Harambe.
Oh,
Man.
boy.
Going into the Wayback Machine on that one.
The Wayback Machine.
Matt, I hope you see yourself out. Ooh. But Ryan, did you have any? I don't know if you had mentioned some of your honorable mentions.
Yes, because I have a top 10. So I'll just give the other 5 as my honorable mentions, and I will save the honorable mentions for that top 10 for anybody to read on my top 10.
Yeah, man.
This weekend. I am still figuring out the order of these. I'll be honest, I rushed together the order of my top 5 right before, like 45 minutes ago. So just kind of in no particular order. Sound of Metal, just a flawless performance for a pretty flawless movie. Wolfwalkers was one of my honorable mentions. I'm with you, Alex. I liked it more than Soul. I think Sean Bean was incredible. I'm kind of a sucker for Sean Bean, and that's like I'm like, oh, it's Ned and Arya, so that carried the movie for me. Shoot, yeah, Greyhound. I actually had Greyhound really high on my list, and it was one of the only ones I didn't get to watch twice. And so Apple Plus, because I'll never get to own these movies, I kind of put Greyhound and Wolfwalkers pretty low on my list because I'll never get to physically own them.
Yeah, that's the sucky thing about my list.
Yeah. So, but I really enjoyed Greyhound. Was that 4?
Yes.
On my list, yeah, it was 4.
Oh yeah, no. Extraction. Really enjoyed Extraction. If that movie did not have the stunt work it did, well, no, I'm gonna say that movie's made for stunt work. So I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful stunt extraordinaire. And the one film I was surprised not to hear anybody else say, I really enjoyed Tenet. I liked it more on a second watch. I'm kidding. Not a positive response from the crowd here.
I was about to say, are we going into this right now?
I liked it a lot more the second time around. I mean, I thought it was really fun. It's got some great stunts. It's got some great big practical effects, some good performances. It's got a lot of problems, but I really enjoyed it. And the second time around, it was much better because I could hear what everyone was saying.
And you also know what to expect, so your brain's not going 100 miles an hour going, what's going on right now? But then again, you get to the end and you're like, what's going on right now?
That's exactly why I didn't have it on any honorable mentions. I was like, I can't put it on there if I have no idea what was going on. But I did get it for Christmas for 4K, so I can throw those subtitles on, and maybe I'll understand what's going on. Maybe my list will change.
Yeah, there's a special code if you hit it on the disc menu where you can watch the movie in reverse.
Oh,
just kidding.
You mean the normal way?
True.
Okay, so
and Alex checks.
2 things. One, I did not like. I was horrible at this. So I just did a top 5. So my honorable mentions were horrible. So I'd like to add actually New Mutants and Tenet to my honorable mentions. I know you guys were crapping all over New Mutants, but I liked it for what it was.
I thought it was right.
So, and Tenet. And I'm laughing because this is the second week in a row that we've said that we were going to review Tenet, like a quick review of this, and I completely forgot yet again.
And it took Ryan to bring it up, by the way. Yeah, right. Neither one of us three. It took Ryan to bring it up, and then we're like, oh yeah, this movie exists. I think Chris Nolan's working some magic to make people forget, man. It's like this movie doesn't exist.
But yes, I'd like to add that to my honorable mentions because unlike you guys, I actually didn't see it in the theaters. I put these bad boys on and had it I was laser focused on this movie. So Ryan Pattinson's voice, it didn't really bother me all that much. There were a few things that were just kind of little okay, that's a little weird. But other than that, it's Christopher Nolan. I mean, the production was really good, and I liked John David Washington a lot, actually. So,
I mean, I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying it's not great. And there's things of it that are highly questionable but there's also things in it that are really good for what they are, like great for what they are. But like just that herd act.
I could not have said it better. Matt, I agree
that
with
third
you.
act where they try to tie things up, I think they make more questions than there need to be. He makes it way complicated. And I'm just like, you had me, but now you don't had me. And now this is dumb. And I really don't understand it. So I must be an idiot, but I don't think I'm an idiot. I just think this plot doesn't make any sense, no matter what you say.
I do think one of the reasons that I ended up liking Tenet so much, and I don't like this as much as a lot of other Christopher Nolan films, including this one.
Mm-hmm.
But Interstellar's third act, I think, might be even messier.
Oh man,
that was my comparison in my head. Well, I mean, you don't have like we sent ourselves here with no explanation, or like love is the one thing that transcends space and time.
I will actually give you some kind of credit because, or some nod to that, because I remember rewatching Interstellar. I threw it on, and you know, I don't know if I have to say spoiler alert at this because this is almost, you know, this 7-year-old movie. Wait, 7?
It's close, if not
8?
already.
Close, yeah.
So I'll say spoilers just in case. It's good. I totally didn't even remember what happened after he goes through that little like wormhole or black hole, and he's like doing Morse code to his daughter, and then he finds himself in like the newly established like Earth that's not Earth, and I was like, oh wait a second, I don't remember any of this. And then it made the ending like I rediscovered it, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually still pretty good. So I can so in that sense, like, because I guess it might have been, I don't consider it messy, but I can see how others perceive it that way. And it is a little bit complicated when he does do that, and it's like, okay, it's a little, it's obviously far-fetched, but it's even pushing the envelope even further. So I get that, but Tenet, you gotta admit, it's like whatever envelope that thing pushed, this thing like took James Harrison and just like body slammed that envelope and just went through the wall.
I will admit with you guys because it's like I'm like Matt, like I got to that third act and I was like, okay, I think I'm following this pretty well. Like this is literally like the midpoint where he starts to go backwards and everything, and it's like, okay, and then then that whole battle scene, it's like, wait, if he's here and this body's here and that guy's there, how does this all tie back in? And it's like, nope, we're done, goodbye. I was like, oh, okay.
Now, Ryan, was it your article? I can't remember. I read it somewhere. I can't remember if it was just a random article or if it was yours, but somebody said I cannot tell if this is a beautiful masterpiece or a bunch of nonsense. Was it you who said that?
It might have been. That sounds.
I think it's I think that's a little bit of both, man. I think it's half beautiful masterpiece and half, or maybe a third, a lot of nonsense. 2/3 masterpiece, 1/3 nonsense.
I definitely called it total nonsense, and it's the most ambitious total nonsense of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has good parts. It's just, I have to. I mean, I obviously own it now, so I have to give it another watch. I forget how long.
And with the amount of money it lost, it's going to be the most ambitious nonsense you're going to see for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
I'm telling you, watch it with headphones on.
I don't even have a problem with the sound. Like, I understand the issue, but that wasn't even, I didn't see it in theater, so I can't really complain about it because I didn't have an issue hearing it. Like, so the sound doesn't even bother me. I'll make fun of it because I know it is an issue. But as far as me enjoying the film, like, that really didn't take me out of it. I was just like, that's dumb. Why didn't he fix that? Why is that so loud? But it didn't distract me from it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are, I think there's a lot of glaring issues in that movie. And again, I'll say in any other year, it probably wouldn't have even bothered making my honorable mention. But it's on my top 10 because Dune didn't get released this year.
Stupid Dune. All right. That's it for our top 5.
This is we talked about Tenet, guys. I feel like somebody should pop a bottle of champagne or something. It finally happened.
It finally happened. After what, 3 weeks?
After 3 months, man.
All right. That was our top 5. So let's move on to our review this week. We reviewed Love and Monsters. Sorry, I had a brain fart for a second. We reviewed Love and Monsters, and this is not a overly complicated story, but it's just about an apocalypse happens, and Joel needs to go find his Amy, and he travels on the surface of the Earth that is now overrun by large insects, the monsters. Um, so I'm going to start this off because this is my number one for this year. I thought that the performances in this were really good. Was this like an Oscar nomination? No, it's not. Is it a fun movie to watch and just kind of get enthralled in? Yeah, I would think so. Because like Dylan O'Brien, like he just fits this everyday kid that just kind of like has this little wit with him, and he kind of cracks some jokes, and they're funny. Like some of them are funny. Michael Rooker does a great job in this movie. He's not in it too much, but it's just he's just enough to just kind of like push Dylan into like the way that he needs to go. So the CGI and the monsters and stuff like that aren't like done like extremely well, but I think for like the budget and everything that this and like where this movie was supposed to be, it does a decent enough job. And they're like really weird looking monsters that just like giant insects and stuff like that. So I don't know. I just got enthralled in the story and just kind of like enthralled with some of these characters and stuff like that. And it was kind of believable. You know what I mean? Like it, in a sense, where it's not like everything turns out roses and whatever. But I won't spoil the end just yet. So, but yeah, I'd give this like an 8.5. Just I don't know. It's just one of those movies that just kind of like I just kind of got enthralled with.
I definitely I agree to an extent with you, Clint. I think this movie, and this might have been the basis for my honorable mention list, had no right being as entertaining or as good as it was. I don't know if who funded this. This might have been. This is an Australian film, I think, and I think it might have been funded by the Australian government. I'm not sure about that. But the CGI in the film, you say it was average. I think it was way above average personally, and super good for what it was. And I came in here thinking I was going to see absolute garbage, and what I saw was something that just didn't blow my mind, but I was like, wow, they actually made this look really good.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie. It's a monster movie. It's like, it's you enjoy watching something like Tremors, you'll enjoy this. It's good. But it's got a good story. There's a good trip going on. There's a good voyage or quest by this guy who Dylan O'Brien, for God's sake, man, this guy's been playing the same age for like 12 years. He's like the modern day, he's like the American Andrew Garfield. I think he's American. I'm not sure. Who knows? But yeah, I'm like, he's playing 16. I'm pretty sure the dude's like 30. But he's in here and he's doing his good job. Mr. Maze Runner himself, running away from monsters, which looked good. The cast was good. Having Merle in there, super awesome. Can't go wrong. He's playing Merle, by the way. It's the same guy plays, Rooker playing the same guy, character and everything. But it was fun. There's a lot of cool like little side quests that goes on. The character development's great. Like I said, this movie had no right being as entertaining and fun as it was. Super entertaining. If you like monster movies, check it out. It's kind of got that teen stuff in there, but it's not like over the top, and it's got its funny moments too. But the end of it, I think, is good. Like the end of it, I think pays off. It's not your quintessential ending, so I think it works out really well. And not that there will be sequels, but who knows? But yeah, I gave it a good solid 7. I'm scooting up almost to a 7.5, but right now 7.
Matt, he turns 30 in August.
Yeah.
Oh, see, McDylan.
Yeah, right.
Now, Ryan, do you want to go before me or do you? Okay.
After you.
Okay. I don't think I enjoyed this quite as much as you guys. I do think it's a fine watch. Like it's okay to just kind of throw on, and it's monster little nonsense. It's Dylan O'Brien. The thing I know him from, while not me personally watching it, like being in the room while this show is being watched, was Teen Wolf. Yeah, because my fiance is very much into the whole vampire werewolf kind of genre. This was right up her alley with monsters, and she knew this guy like right away, and I did too, because you see enough of him in the background of whatever you're watching while she's watching Teen Wolf. It was okay. I wasn't blown away by the story. Although it did make me feel like I was watching a little bit of, what's the movie? Zombieland. It had that kind of feel to it. So I enjoy that. I didn't think it was the total best story. I think like it had potential, and then not to get into the ending just yet, I didn't think it was like the greatest ending. I thought it was a little like every once in a while I find myself quoting Ryan on this, where a movie is only as good as your main villain, and I don't even know if this two things, like, okay, did it even need a villain? No, I thought the monsters were kind of that. Wasn't that the whole point? But whatever, we'll get into that later. And then what villain there was, I thought was pretty lame. Like, okay, we got all the way here for this. That's just me. My favorite part, being a little bit swayed by animals, was the dog.
Yeah.
Just known as Boy. He's very, very cute. Very, I think he was kind of like Grogu. He was a little bit of the indirect star, or unintentional star, maybe. I don't know. I liked him, and he kind of stole the show for me. That's why I kind of hung on as long as I did. It's one other thing I thought was a little funny was Michael Rooker. I thought was advertised to be in this a little more than he actually was, and I'm like, okay, he's in it, but he's kind of not in it. I thought maybe I was reading a little bit too much into that cast detail. I don't know. I gave this a 6. I thought it was, fine. Like, would I say this is a horrible movie? No, but I just don't think it's catered to my interests. I did like that he and his colony, he wasn't seen as like the outcast. I mean, he kind of was, in that you're like the little brother, but like we still like you a lot, like we care about you. And whenever he does go out into the surface world, he's still like, they're still like, we care about you, Joel. Be careful, be safe. Come back to us. I was like, okay, that's not the stereotypical like, all right, Joel, if you happen to make it back, whatever, man. And then they give him like a Charlie horse on the way out or something. It wasn't like that. And I actually thought that was refreshing. Like it wasn't stereotypical to this kind of dynamic. So 6 out of 10, could be a lot worse, could be better, in my opinion. Your turn, Ryan.
Oh yeah. I was like, so I did watch it. I don't know if I comprehended all of it. I definitely was dozing out a little bit by the end. I had a lot on my mind before this, and so I kind of I made a mistake of cramming it in kind of as homework before. So I spent most of the movie just preoccupied. I thought it was fine. I agree with a lot of these points. I'm kind of in the middle. I thought the setup was better than the payoff. I really enjoyed the setup though. I thought it was pretty creative for the title kind of lets you assume it's got a little bit of creativity to it, of course. I mean, I liked the setup of it. It did post-apocalyptic justice, and I liked a lot of the little details, even as far as like the story set up, like that it's like what is high school crush basically, high school girlfriend, or so. I thought it was good. Good performances. I thought Michael Rooker was a kind of forgettable performance. I also don't know him from much before Guardians, and everyone else does. So
just Walking Dead man and
Mallrats.
Yeah,
and Mallrats. There you go.
But yeah, I mean, I wasn't overly impressed. I enjoyed it enough. I don't know if I can fairly rate it. I thought it was all right.
Cool. All right.
So-
So let's talk spoilers.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. So the reason why I kind of like this a little bit more as well is because of the ending. Taking aside the villain of this movie, yeah, he was kind of a.
Can we?
That's probably why I
can we-
gave.
Can we say one thing? He is a villain in this movie. He is not the villain in this movie.
Right.
So
Okay.
we're saying a
That's fair.
villain in this movie. It is the world. It is the
Right.
monsters. It is monsters, both insect or this individual. So
Right.
I don't really think. I think his surviving against everything is the villain. That's the villain.
Right. Yeah. So that's fair. So a villain of this movie, the human villain of this movie, yeah, is kind of cookie cutter. Like you kind of get his like what's the word I'm looking for? Like the reasonings why he's doing what he's doing. I get all that. But the ending that I'm talking about is the realistic ending is like this is 7 years, like there's a 7-year time period between the apocalypse happening and this whole thing. And he gets there, he goes on this journey to find his one true love and whatever. And she's like, well, I kind of moved on. It's been 7 years. And he's like, well, crap, what am I doing here then? That's what I'm talking about. That's the ending that I kind of enjoyed because it's kind of a realistic thing where it's like, you know, this is 7 years. Do you really expect her to kind of wait for you for 7 years to have all this stuff to happen? And then like he's talking to her and he's kind of falling in love because like there's couples all around him and he's got this one outsource, you know, this one outlet somewhere else and he's in love with this woman, whatever. And then he goes all this way and he figures out that the only family he needed was 85 miles in the other direction. And that's kind of, you know, the whole thing where he gets there and it's like he talks to the Mavis, which was kind of cool. That's the only other problem I didn't like. What are these things? Are they supposed to be like the new iPods or iPhones or something? Like the other thing, that kind of point that I notched off is because they don't really give like an explanation like what these things are. It just starts pulling up.
I think
like,
they were androids.
well, is it C3PO or is it R2D2? Yeah, it's just like just starts pulling up like pictures of his mom, and it's just like this emotional type of journey that he goes through to figure out that he's better than what he thinks he is. So
Yeah, I actually I'm glad you mentioned the Mavis thing because that was my favorite other than the dog. That was my other favorite part of the movie. Like I wish that scene was longer, but it obviously was short in order to keep the, I don't know if it's dramatic effect or not, but the sense that she's being powered down, like she only has enough power to, you know, keep her conscious or talking for 20 minutes to a half hour. So I liked that part. I liked his exchange with Mavis. Otherwise, I don't know, Clint. I can't say that I totally am like glad of that ending. Like it just didn't leave me. I mean, obviously there's no movie if this well, I don't know, maybe there could have been. In my mind, I'm like, what was his girlfriend's name? Amy?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Amy? Right.
Mm-hmm.
She could have been like, yo, Joel, because they had radio. It's like, I know it sucks, but I've moved on. And then maybe they could have been a movie where he's like, you know what? I'm going anyway. I'm going to show her this and that. Maybe it would have been a little bit better that way around. I don't know. But in my mind, it would have been just like, come on. But he would have never had this journey of overcoming, you know, fear and, you know, facing himself, I guess. So, I mean, artsy fartsy. Yeah, I guess you can say it's a quality ending, but I don't know. I just didn't see it that way.
I think I'm with you, Alex. I think it's a little. It reminded me of the third act of Paper Towns, where I was like, oh, what a different thing to do, but it's not what I was expecting for 2/3 of this movie.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. So, but I mean, it's not like it's a terrible movie. I mean, if you like it, that is awesome. Clint, you like it as your number one. I can see why you like it. I mean, you know, and it's funny, like certain people's grades are different to others. Like we both watched it, Ashley and and we were like, I was like, 6, and she said, yeah, a 6. But hers was more of an optimistic 6. Mine was like, 6.
I just don't think you like giving things bad grades, Alex, no matter how much crap you talk about them.
Oh no! What did we watch the other week? I Am Your Woman. No, I had no problem giving that a doo-doo of a score.
I still never went back and watched the rest of it.
You're missing out, man.
Oh, well, am I missing out on wah?
Actually,
Wah.
yeah, because that's not in the last half of it.
Yeah. There you go. She ditches the kid, remember?
Yeah, she just throws him in the basement and then goes and lives her life.
Luke shows up and takes him away.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and that enthralling dialogue that took 5 minutes to get 2 sentences out.
Oh no, the 11 Monsters was good, man. That dog was great. Mavis was great. It's a fun, like a little adventure. It's like the never-ending story, man. He's got to get out there and go on the road and find his woman. Except it's his woman and not the childlike empress.
Now let me ask. I know I personally I got a little lazy and I didn't want to go to Redbox to get this, so I just paid this. I think it was $6 to rent it on HD. Or
so that's why you're so unhappy.
No. I'm. It's fun. Like had I gotten it for $2, I think I would have at Redbox. I would have said the same thing. But that's my question to you guys. Does that price point come into effect? Like, let's say you could have seen this in theaters and it was $10. Would it have been worth it?
I think I would have
Probably.
enjoyed it more in theaters.
Probably.
I mean,
I think I'm way more critical. I have to pay a lot of money for it, to be perfectly honest. But I still enjoyed it. I probably would pick it apart more. But from what I saw, I really liked. Like I said, it had no right being as good as I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
But
always an interesting thought.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Matt on this one. Well, actually, Ryan and Matt. Like, I think I would have enjoyed seeing it more on the big screen and paying the $10 for it. But I think, in a weird kind of serendipitous way, this movie probably was better on a smaller screen, like the way that it was released, because it was supposed to be released back in like November or February this year, and then they just threw it on Prime, the premium video on demand or whatever. So I think this is probably would have gotten swallowed by a lot of other movies.
Yeah, this is one I could if it had came out on theaters, I probably, because of that, Clint, like it would have been overseen by a lot of different other things, like Invisible Man. So I probably would have passed on seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right. Do we have any other thoughts on Love and Monsters? No. All right, then it is time for Alex's Classic Corner. Alex, what did you watch this week?
I watched Singing in the Rain, to be
Singing
more
in the
exact.
Rain.
So I this is the first musical I've watched in this segment, right? So I think this is volume 6 of my Alex's Classics Corner. So this was actually pretty good. Like I knew a lot of the numbers, like in the morning. So I knew a lot of those already. So, but the story was I didn't know anything about it, and I liked it. It was the whole transitioning from the very classical movie style of, I don't know specifically like what you would call it, non-talkies, transitioning and I guess silent film with dubbed, speech screens, whatever. Transitioning from that into actual talkies and pictures with audio or with words and everything. I was like, that's a pretty cool concept. It's looking into the early works of cinema and their transition. Now, I mean, if that's actually how it worked, and if that was the real life, I'm sure there's a good amount of accuracy in there. Who knows? But it was interesting nonetheless, and I like this whole Gene Kelly. He's kind of not a jerk, but like this, like hey, I'm this hotshot guy, you know. Hey, who are you to tell me that I'm, you know, I'm just in these, you know, you seen them once, you seen them all movies, and then, you know, and he falls for, I forget the actress's name.
Debbie Reynolds.
Yes, thank you, Miss Reynolds. So I liked her character a lot. And you know, this is a movie that doesn't really, you know, it doesn't need a villain. It doesn't really have a villain, but what's her name? Lamont, something Lamont. What was her name?
Oh,
Lena.
Lena.
Lamont.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was definitely a very annoying character, and she did it. She was effectively like, oh, you bother me so much. And my favorite person in the whole movie was it who was this the third of the main characters? David O'Connor, Dylan O'Connor, I forget.
Hold on. Donald O'Connor.
Yes, Donald O'Connor. I loved his character so much. He was so. I don't know if did he win any Oscar nomination for this, or did he even get nominated for an Oscar for like supporting actor for this? Because if he didn't, he should have been, because the only reason he wouldn't have been is because he wasn't featured nearly as much as I would have liked. I liked his character. He was zany. He was funny. He was like the main attraction in some of the numbers, and I loved him. And I'll have to look up some of the other films that he's been in. I don't know if those will be my next films to watch on the Classics Corner segment, but he was easily my favorite of this entire film. I liked him. Gene Kelly is fine. He's good. I just got something out of Donald O'Connor that I didn't out of Gene Kelly. Just that zany, kind of funny. He's a quirky like best friend, and I dug it. Overall, I really liked this movie all the way throughout. It didn't, you know, kind of fall flat at the end. I really liked the ending a lot. It's an awesome tale, and it doesn't just kind of end like I thought it would have. 7.5, 8. I think I'm going to stay at an 8. I think that's very fair. I think it's you know, it's a classic musical, and I think it deserves every bit of praise that it always has gotten throughout the years. And I'm glad this is actually the first time I've watched it all the way through. I've seen some of the numbers and some of the scenes, like the whole thing with the microphone and Lena, like obviously just not getting it. Like I've seen that scene before, but I've never seen it all the way throughout. And I really like this movie a lot. Yeah, 8 out of 10, solid movie.
The film was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, which is one of the reasons I think it needs more attention, because it didn't even get a Best Picture nomination. Supporting actress and score, Donald O'Connor won a Golden Globe for actor and didn't receive any Oscar nominations for it.
Okay, I mean, I guess I'll try and see it as half full on that case, because he was like the choreography and the dance numbers. It seemed a little repetitive because a lot of hand twirling and spinning. You know, some of it seemed the same after a while, but I still thought it was really nice to look at, and he had an energy about him that I was just like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that from him. I thought Gene Kelly was supposed to be more of this guy. So it was kind of like not exactly the same with Alec Guinness in Lawrence of Arabia for me, but it's where he's a secondary guy and I'm not expected to like him as much, but I do. And he was easily my favorite part of this movie.
Cool. So I have 2 nominees for you next week for Alex Classic Corner. The Philadelphia Story, starring Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart, and Katharine Hepburn. It's a romantic comedy. I believe, Matt, Ryan, tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is another Billy Wilder, isn't it?
I think so. You'll have to check. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I feel like it is, though.
I think it's either Billy Wilder or Capra for some reason. Oh, I was completely wrong. George
I don't know.
Cooker? I don't know. Can't pronounce his name. Anyway, so the Philadelphia Story or the Maltese Falcon.
You know what? We're gonna go with the Maltese Falcon because that was the one I couldn't think of earlier, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give this a try because Humphrey Bogart I know is in that one, and we kind of saw it on one of the high channels, and there's kind of a funny story why I like that. I don't know if you guys watch Whose Line Is It Anyway, but they did some type of skit back in the day when it was like really good, of the Maltese burger, and that just kind of refreshes in the back of my mind. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let me see where that reference is making a reference to. So Maltese Falcon.
Okay, that's on HBO as well.
Cool.
And when you're feeling better, I will give you Some Like It Hot.
Okay, cool.
I just bought that.
Did you get it on the Criterion?
No, I didn't. I just got it in
Oh.
Virginia. I found it for a couple bucks. I thought I owned it, and then I apparently, because I have an app keeping track of movies, and I apparently don't own it. So now I do.
Man, he just thought it was something that needed to be cold.
And I only buy Criterion movies when they're half off.
On
So
Amazon,
twice
they're
a
half off. Yes, sir. Start buying them on Amazon. I got for my birthday. I got Some Like It Hot.
Don't tell me that.
I got Some Like It Hot. All About Eve, the Philadelphia Story, and Roman Holiday. But Roman Holiday is not Criterion. It's the Paramount Presents or whatever. But it's one of those special edition ones. Anyway,
that's when the next news, or the hottest news of next week, is that Ryan blew through his stimulus check on Criterion.
Now I got to spend it all at the. We have 3 video rental stores that are all closing, but they do have
they
the
closed.
Irish
That
one.
should have been on the news. Family Videos closing. I do remember reading it. The last brick and mortar chain.
Bummer. That sucks.
Rip.
Okay, so for all of us, though, I have a couple that I have picked out. 2 of these are movies that have released like earlier in the year, and one that's going to be released on Netflix. So Pieces of a Woman, which is Netflix, starring Vanessa
Is that the
Kirby.
sequel to I Am Your Woman?
I don't think so, because Vanessa Kirby is like way British. So King of Staten Island is coming to HBO on Saturday. And I know that we actually haven't done a horror movie this year, and I'm kind of like wanting to see this. Gretel and Hansel, which is coming to Hulu, I believe.
I'm gonna go with Ryan's visual cues.
Please don't make me sit through that again.
Yeah, let me tell you.
You've already seen it?
Very bad. It's very bad.
It's
okay.
I'm like, you're not lulling me in. You're like, oh, check out this art. No, you're boring. It's not even scary. You're just boring at this point, and it's not good. I'm sorry. No.
We got to find a horror movie to kind of like round us out. Then we're gonna find maybe next week. But anyway, so that drops us to Pieces of a Woman or King of Staten Island.
I'm interested in King of Staten Island. That kept piquing my interest, even though it was $20, but I just never pulled the trigger.
That'll be on HBO.
It's supposed to be a good film from what I've read, so I'm slightly interested to look at it, even though what's his name?
Pete Davidson?
Yeah, Pete Davidson's I think a slightly polarizing, but
exactly. I think the same thing, but I'm still like, okay, I'm interested despite that.
I'm interested because it's a Judd Apatow film, so. Ryan, what do you think?
These both sound so thrilling.
Well, yeah, that's why I was trying to put a mix of stuff, because Piece of Woman, I guess, is supposed to be like this highly dramatic.
Right, Gretel and Hansel.
Shia LaBeouf and like Vanessa Kirby's.
Wait a second. Nobody said Shia LaBeouf. Wait a second.
I think that's who's in it.
No, I mean, okay.
No, Vanessa Kirby's in it.
Seriously, what is that about? I mean, if without giving too much,
it is Shia LaBeouf.
Without giving too much away, Alex, it's a drama.
It's a
Okay.
a heartbreaking home birth leaves a woman grappling with a profound emotional fallout, isolated from her partner and family by a chasm of grief.
Woo.
That is AKA jolly good time.
Okay, why don't we now? That's releasing on Netflix, or where is that?
Yes, this will be
Okay.
on Netflix.
So why don't I mean if anybody else has any like other suggestions, I would say let's do kind of a whatever you get to of that combo. Like if you do both, you review both. If you do one, you review that, and let that be next week's assignment.
Okay.
I mean, because
Yeah,
I'll watch both of those.
I'll try to get to. I'll figure out which one's easier to talk my significant other into watching a 2-hour drama or 2.5-hour Judd Apatow comedy.
2.5 hours. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know.
Is it really?
It's 2.5 hours long. I had thought maybe it's not quite that long, but if you're looking for my input, we should. I mean, I'd like to prioritize the newer one. That's the one I'm going to try to get done at least because I can get a review out for it since it's the one that's coming out this weekend. So that's the one I'll try to prioritize.
That
Yeah,
piece
King
is
of
a
Staten
woman.
Island is 2 hours and 18 minutes long.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, I'm fine with the Shia LaBeouf then. It's fine with me.
All right. Let's do Pieces of a Woman because it is newer.
But yeah, and it's also only 2 hours and 8 minutes long.
Yeah.
Man, that's a
We're
lot of
cutting
pieces.
10 minutes. Yeah. But if I see a home birth, I'm gonna cuss you guys out.
Spider-Man home birth.
There it is. I think you've won the game.
Yay! No more home fries.
So, are we talking? Are we going to talk our worst movies of the year next year? Or
Next
is that
week?
just we'll leave that off the table. Yeah.
I thought
Wait,
about that
what did you-
myself.
Wait,
Oh, yeah,
worst
no.
movies of the year?
I
Yeah.
was wondering if that was something that we had planned out or not.
We can do that next week.
Top 5 worst. Since I'm
I
sure
know
there's
that-
probably gonna be no news next week either.
We're gonna
And
have
they
to
should
tell.
be- Go ahead.
We're gonna have
Alex.
to tell. We're gonna have to tell Matt what we did for Ryan. Like, okay, just put a couple on there because we know you hate everything.
Matt, I threw together my. Actually, this isn't directed at Matt, but threw together my contenders from my worst list, and I had like 25.
You're gonna see, like, on the video, you're gonna see me to have a scroll, and I'm just gonna be like, all right, number 50, and then I'm just gonna drop it down.
It's just every movie that wasn't in your top 10.
Yeah.
Best to
Wonder
worst.
Woman.
In no particular order. But at number one,
Horrible.
Wonder Woman. Just kidding. There were way worse movies than Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah.
That ironically came out on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah. I have 2 Disney movies on my list.
Only two.
Only 2. I usually try to have 3, so
Yeah.
Alex, you know me. You know how much I love.
They're gonna have to move those movies to Disney minus.
Good.
I still want to steal that joke. Oh,
Disney minus.
This one's free because all the movies are horrible. Enjoy.
Poor Mickey. All right.
Do you think there's some kid who like really, really, really loves the movie Artemis Fowl? Like he's sitting there,
No.
like, and he makes his parents watch it like every day, and his parents are like, "My kid has the worst taste ever of any child."
if there's a kid somewhere who watches that movie and likes it that much because he understands it, he's a freaking genius.
And he should have
Like-
starred in the movie.
Yeah.
You should probably
If
wrote the
if he
script.
can follow that nonsense.
Hey viewers, if you know this kid, let him come on the show. Like,
Yeah.
let's bring him on the show.
Watch it be Kip.
Buy his parents a gift card because they've had to put up with that all the time.
Oh well. All right. Do we have anything else? All right, then this meeting is adjourned. We will see you guys next week.
Later.